The whole idea of retirement is to have a stress-free life, right? Put the stress behind you of working, doing everything you need to in the real world, and enjoy retirement. But the reality is there is still plenty of stress. We got a question today about that. Should you put off retirement because you're worried about the stress that could be around the corner? We'll break it down next. Got a good show for you today, John. I want to talk about stress and retirement because I think a lot of people just assume, okay, hey, I'm retired, I can transition, sail off into the sunset, enjoy life, stress goes away. But not always the case. Today I want to run a question by you and get your thoughts on this. So here it is. I heard someone talking the other day about how stressful life has been for her since she retired. Maybe I'm missing the point of retirement because I thought the idea was to reduce stress. But now I'm second guessing my plans to retire in about 6 months. What am I missing?
Yeah. So if you think about the changes that you have in life when you retire, a lot of them on their face sound good, right? Like you're no longer governed by the clock. You don't have to get up at a certain time. You don't have to be at work or on your computer if you work from home. You don't have to be going at a certain time. You're not governed by the clock. You don't have meetings constantly. Nobody likes meetings. You don't have deadlines and projects that you have to worry about. You don't have work-related travel that you have to do. Which all of that sounds like, okay, taking that stuff off my plate is going to be great. But a lot of people don't factor in just how important some of those things are to their life. So for instance, not being governed by the clock sounds great. However, what a lot of people find is when they get in retirement and they don't have a schedule laid out for them, they don't have expectations of a certain daily routine, they actually have a hard time adjusting to that. And now suddenly every task they do takes 3 or 4 times as long as it used to, not because they're older and slower, just because, well, the time is available, so I might as well use all of this time to complete this task. It's like you learned in 3rd grade science, Ben, how when you put a gas in a container, the gas expands to fill the container that it's in, right? And in retirement, very often, your tasks expand to fill your day. Like we'll have people where I'm trying to get them to come in Thursday at 2 o'clock. Well, we can't do Thursday at 2. We have a doctor's appointment at 9:30 that morning. Well, how long's the doctor's appointment going to take? You can't do anything else that day? But this mindset shift for a lot of people once you get into retirement is just, I don't have a clock and I'm just going to space all of my stuff out so far and I'll do one thing per day. Well, that can be good maybe some of the time, but for a lot of people that can actually be stressful to not have part of their day laid out for them and to get away from a routine that they're used to. So not being governed by the clock, again, sounds good, but it can create stress for some people. The meetings. Again, like I said, nobody likes meetings. However, a lot of people underestimate just how much social interaction they're getting from their time at work, whether it's in meetings or just interacting with people at work. And even if you work from home, you're still, kind of forced to interact with people in most jobs, whether it's Zoom meetings or phone calls or whatever. Well, you take that out of your life if you don't already have built-in social networks in your life. You might find it's actually really hard to get the socialization that you need. So if you don't have a church family, if you're not involved in like social organizations, if you're not really close with your neighbors, it could be that most of your socializing now is with people at work. And that doesn't mean you're going out with them after work. It's just you're around them 7, 8, 9 hours a day. That is a lot of built-in socialization that you don't really realize that you're getting. So we have to think about ways to socialize you in retirement. I don't know. Maybe that's not the best phrase. It sounds like you're a pit bull and we have to socialize you so that you're not aggressive with other dogs. But you get the point. We have to make sure that you have the social network built in. Because, again, that can be stressful for people if that socialization goes away. Deadlines and projects. Same thing. if you don't have a deadline that you're shooting for, if you don't have a specific project that you're working on, well, those things can give you purpose. And if you don't have other ways of having purpose in your life, you take away the projects and deadlines at work, and that can be stressful for people to not have that purpose. Now, I mentioned work-related travel. You kind of like traveling, right?
Yeah, I enjoy it.
I personally would never leave my property if I didn't have to. But for some people, they might say that they're tired of travel. They don't like travel. But then once they're retired and they're not doing it ever, suddenly they realize, oh, you know what? I did kind of like getting out, getting around, seeing new places. And now I feel trapped. So again, this is just another potential cause of stress when it comes to retiring. So a lot of things from a lifestyle standpoint to think about. And Ben, we haven't even talked about the financial piece of this. I mean, if we're going from you're earning a paycheck and you're used to seeing that hit your checking account every couple of weeks, and now we have to rely on your investments to create that paycheck, it's not hard to see how that's stressful for a lot of people. So I understand what the conversation that was overheard here about stress and retirement. I get it. I think that's probably what they were talking about. There are a lot of potential opportunities for stress, and you just have to be sure that you're aware of those going into retirement so you know how to combat them.
And it sounds like these aren't things that you can get prepared and get done and just check off your list. This is all stuff you have to tackle, I guess, once you get into retirement. So does it really just come down to planning? Is that basically what this conversation comes down to, is just having that confidence because you've worked through these things, you've had the discussions, you put plans in place for how you're going to address each of these in retirement, and now you can confidently step into retirement going, okay, I know the stress is going to be there, I'm aware of it, but I know how to get around it.
Yeah, and it's just being aware of the challenges you'll face is as big a thing as any. Just knowing, all right, these are the things I need to think about. My social circle. Exercise is another thing I didn't mention, but for some people, they get a lot of exercise at work, whether they realize it or not, even if it's just steps, walking. And if you don't have a plan for that exercise, that can create stress too. So yes, it's just a matter of understanding how life is going to change, and let's be prepared for it instead of just diving headlong into retirement and realizing a month in, oh, wow, this is really different. And now I feel overwhelmed.
Stress, right, is unavoidable for a lot of people, a lot of situations, but the best way to reduce that is by having a plan, of course. And to do that with John over at Rosewood Wealth Management, all you have to do is call 800-545-2991, or better yet, go to meetwithjohn, JOHN.com, meetwithjohn.com. Pick a time out that works for you. You can get on John's calendar, and you'll be set to meet with him very soon. So again, a very important conversation. John, thanks for taking us through this today, and look forward to doing it again soon with you. Please hit subscribe on the channel if you're watching. We appreciate it. Take care.
Carolina Wealth Stewards doing business as Rosewood Wealth Management is a registered investment advisor in the state of North Carolina. The material presented is intended to be general information and should not be construed by any consumer as the rendering of personalized investment advice.